The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jason Hassman, and today we are going to go through General Insurance IQ training. You should see the Insurance IQ system up on my screen right now. I'm pulling my cursor over. The screen that we are on currently is the dashboard screen. This is the home page for the Insurance IQ system and the screen that you're going to come to each and every time that you log in to Insurance IQ. Just a couple of things to note on this page before we get into some more of the actual navigation. First off, up in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, you will see that there is a Change Password button. If for some reason you decide that it's time to update your password, you can click this button. You'll receive a pop-up that will allow you to change the password. I'm going to cancel out of this page. Another item to note here is that if you forget your password, on the actual login screen for Insurance IQ, there is a Forgot Password link right at the bottom of that little center pop-up. So you can hit that, and that will allow you to receive a new password from Insurance IQ. Now getting into our general navigation. Over on the left-hand side of the page, you'll notice our navigation tabs. And we do work on a tabbing system. So throughout the Insurance IQ system, you'll see different tabs, some on the side, some in the middle of the page, bottom sides. The overall navigation, or the most important tabs, you'll find on these side tabs over here. So down at the bottom left-hand corner of the page are our general side tabs. The next item that I want to point out, more information regarding just the setup of Insurance IQ and your specific profile, is the My Account link. So if I wanted to go to My Account, first off, what I would need to do is select the correct tab down in this lower left-hand corner, and that would be the Dashboard tab. Right now, you can see the Dashboard tab is highlighted in yellow or orange. That means that it's been selected. If I were to click the Trusts tab, you can see that is now highlighted in orange. Nothing really seems to happen with the page. I'm going to click to the Dashboard tab again. That's because the side tabs, rather than having a pop-up to the right side or maybe below the actual tab, pop up here. So anytime that you select one of these tabs down at the bottom, the actual page selectors are going to open up above. So I'm going to go to the My Account page, clicking right here. That will take you to the My Account tab. This is where you'll be able to edit some of your user settings. Before I get into the actual user settings, you probably need to find out how to edit actual pages within Insurance IQ. Right now, you'll notice that all of the information is grayed out, which means that you can't make any changes. I'm trying to double-click on my phone number right now. Nothing is happening. Up in the upper left-hand corner of almost every page in Insurance IQ, you'll find a little button like this with a pencil and edit next to it. This is our global edit button. If you click that button, you'll notice that now we have information to edit. So our selections are no longer grayed out. The edit button is going to be on any pages that you are able to edit. Your edit capabilities will be dependent on your actual user role. If you have questions about your user role, you can contact your client service representative. Over on the right-hand side of the My Account page, you'll notice that we have a dashboard selector, and below it, it mentions widgets. Widgets are the boxes that I will point out when we go back to the dashboard screen. So when you actually log into your dashboard, those are the 9 different boxes that you'll see on that screen. There are 3 required widgets up at the top of the page here: Welcome Message, File Drop, and Trust and Policy Count. And down below, you also have the option to add 6 optional widgets. If you wanted to make a change to one of these widgets, all that you need to do is check the box. Now, you also need to make sure that you can only have 6 optional widgets. So if you wanted to add a widget, you'd need to unselect one first. So if I wanted to add the admin fee console, I first need to select, say, active policy status to uncheck that, and now I can add my admin fee console widget. Once I have all the optional widgets selected that I'd like to have on my dashboard screen, I'd go up to Apply to Dashboard, and that would lock that into that page. I can also restore to defaults if I want, and that will take me back to my original widgets. Okay, you can also see actual user information on the left-hand side of the page. You will want to make sure that you have secret questions set. Mine is an internal user role, so my questions are a little bit different, but you want to make sure to have those set. Up at the top of the page now, if we are already in edit mode, we need to make sure that we close out of edit mode in some way, shape, or form. There are 2 ways to close out of edit mode. The first option, and probably the most applicable, is going to be the save option. So that is going to save any changes that you made while you were in edit mode. The other option is to cancel the edit. So let's say you went into edit mode thinking you were going to make changes, but you did not, and you want to make sure that you didn't make any changes. Then you can hit cancel edit. You can also hit cancel edit if you accidentally got into edit mode. So you didn't mean to click on edit mode. You are now in edit mode and you want to make sure you didn't change anything. I'm going to cancel out of my edit mode because I didn't make any changes that I wanted to make. So I'm going to cancel out. That will close me out of edit mode and now has grayed out all of those options. One thing to remember, and this will make more sense as we get to the trust and policy pages, if you are in edit mode on those pages, even though you're going to different tabs, you'll still be in edit mode. So you want to make sure to cancel out of that edit mode, or you could make changes that you're not trying to make. I'll show you more of that when we get to those 2 sections. All right, I'm now ready to head back to my dashboard tab. There are 2 ways that I could do that. I could go to my dashboard tab and my dashboard page, or I could use this back button up in the upper left-hand corner of the page. This will take me back to the last page that I was on. I'm hitting the back button, which is taking me back to my dashboard screen. This is also where you can see now our 9 different widget boxes. These are the selections that we could have made at the My Account page. Next item we're going to hit on is the help document library. We do have a fair number of help documents within the InsuranceIQ system that will walk you through some of the more common procedures and pages that we have in the system. In order to get to the help library, you'll first need to go down to the help tab in the lower left-hand corner, and then up to the upper left-hand corner and document library. This will bring up our IIQ help documentation. You can see all of the different descriptions, so help document name, description of the content, and if you wanted to view that document, you can just click the button next to that, and it will open up a PDF with the help document inside. We're now going to head back to the dashboard. This time I'm going to hit on the dashboard tab and the dashboard selector up in the upper left-hand corner. Our last navigational, or maybe I should say homepage item before we get into the real navigation, is the notifications or mailbox within the system. You may have noticed this up at the top of the page, but there is a little red mailbox. Currently mine says unread 3. This is where the system is going to notify you of actions that have been taken. This is, again, is going to be dependent on your user role and how active you are in the system. But the InsuranceIQ system will notify you of things such as completed policy reviews on your accounts, if there were follow-ups assigned to you or resolved, and we'll get into a lot of this later, or if you're missing information that we need, say annual statements or there are logs with questions that we need to complete reviews, the notifications will house any of that information. So it is going to be imperative that you check this on a regular basis. I would say at least a weekly basis, just to see if there's anything new in there. If I wanted to see my notifications, I can just click on this unread box or verbiage here. That'll bring me to the notifications page, and down below you'll be able to see all of the notifications that have been assigned to you or that have been sent to you. If you want to read a notification, what you need to do is click on it. So I have highlighted this top notification here, and to read it, I then look over to the notes section on the right-hand side. This is just happens to be a follow-up notification. I'll show you what that does a little bit later, but this is where you'll read your notes. If I was looking down at some of these others, you can see that the notes have now changed to correspond to that notification. If you want to delete notifications, you'll have to check these boxes over here and then click the delete button, which will clear out those notifications. Now when I go back to the dashboard screen, you'll see that my unread is 0, and it's actually changed already. We're now ready to head back to the dashboard. I'm going to use the back button this time, which is going to take me back to my dashboard screen. I'm not going to go through each and every one of these widgets. You can kind of look through them on your own time to see the information provided. But we will walk through at least one of the more critical widgets, and possibly the most critical if you are an administrator of ILET accounts. That's going to be the file drop widget, which for me is up in the upper right-hand corner of the page here. The file drop is how you're going to securely transfer documentation to us. So anytime that you receive a document with policy values on it, for instance, an annual statement, illustration, quarterly statement, or maybe an owner or beneficiary confirmation, or just a document that you think was requested by the ITM 21st team, then you'll want to drop it into this file drop. That will securely send that document to our administrative assistants here, and they'll process that to the correct analyst and correct policy within the system. If we are going to use the file drop, there are two ways to transfer documentation. First off, before we actually transfer documentation, we may need to select an account. Most of you probably only have one account that you are actually able to use, but some may have organizations that we've split up separate accounts based on locations or when acquisitions were added to those different accounts. If you do need to select an account, then you can hit this little drop down and go to your corresponding account. What I am actually going to do right now is to switch to our test account, and I'm going to do that by the account filter before I go through the file drop. So the account filter will allow me to receive information only for one account within InsuranceIQ. In order to do that, I'm going to click this little button here. I'm going to scroll down to the test account, account 316, and hit submit. This brings me down to only the information within our test account. So it has filtered InsuranceIQ to only that account. Because I'm filtered to only a single account, I do not need to use the drop down right here in the file drop. That's because it knows which account that my documentation is going to correspond to. If I had access to multiple accounts, I would need to hit an account in that drop down before I'd be able to drop the document. Okay, now getting to actually passing information through this file drop. There are two ways to do so. The first and easiest way is to drag and drop. I have a document saved off the screen here that I'm going to drag over, and all that I need to do, drop it over this browse button, and you can see I've now received this note, your files have been uploaded. So my document has been added from that drag and drop process. The other way to transfer information is what I call the email attachment method, which is to hit this browse button, select files, and then to go locate that document from your desktop or other file folders. Once I have that document selected, I hit submit, and I'll receive the exact same note here. Now, let's say that you transferred a document that you didn't mean to. How do you get that document back? Well, each of these widgets has a little maximize button in the upper right-hand corner. If you hit that maximize button, it expands those to take on the entire page. And now, with the file drop widget, it opens up the documents that we have transferred for the day. So I can see both of my test documents here, and I can manipulate that document. So let's say I did not mean to transfer this test document right here. What I can do is click on it, which will turn it blue, hit the delete file, and it's now removed that document. I'll also receive a note over here that says save complete. I'm actually going to delete both of these out of here so our admin assistant does not receive 2 test documents. So we'll delete those files out. All right. We've gone through the file drop widget. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm not going to review the rest of the widgets here. If you have questions about the widgets and more information that you can see, talk to your client service representative. They'll be able to walk you through what might be the best setup for you. I am going to talk about one other widget, though, and that is the trust and policy totals. And the only reason that I'm going to talk about this is really not for the widget so much as where I can go from this widget. The trust and policy totals breaks the account or organization, depending on what you're filtered down to. For me, it'll just be this account, into active trust accounts, active policies, inactive trusts, and inactive policies. This is going to filter these down to lists of each of these items. I'm going to go to the active trusts list. I clicked on active trusts. It has now brought me to this table right here. You can see trusts in navy blue up here in the upper left-hand corner. You'll see these tables throughout the system, and these tables are very nice navigational tools because they act a lot like Excel spreadsheets. By that, I mean that they are sortable based on the column headings. So if I wanted to sort by trust account number, all that I'd need to do is click on this column heading, and it sorts that information. You can see the little arrow here that shows that it's sorted by the top first. If I wanted to go bottom first, I could click again, and now it's resorted that information. You can do that with any of these column headers, which will allow you to pull in information in a clean or more orderly fashion. There are other ways to manipulate these pages, though. Up here, there is a page filter box and a filter drop-down. If I click that filter drop-down, this will actually allow me to filter this further. So let's say that I wanted to filter by administrator Melanie Decker. So any accounts that are associated with Melanie Decker, I hit go, and it pulls up that one account. If I wanted to unfilter that information, I can now go and uncheck administrator, hit go, and it takes me back to my original table. This will be nice if you are looking for specific information or you're trying to cut down on some of the information within here. You can also search within these tables. So this little search bar right here, if I wanted to search for James, I would type in James and hit enter, and it pulls up any items that reference James. So you can see all of these different trust names for James. The last navigational item within these tables is the export capability. So let's say that this table is not enough for you when it comes to being able to manipulate the information. And you want to get this off of the page to provide this list to someone. You can actually export all these tables by looking at this Excel logo here, an export button. If I click that, it now allows me to save that table as an Excel file outside of the system. So I can take that and distribute that to someone else. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is actually take you to a trust page. In order to do that, I can actually use this table to move me to that page. And how I can do that is by double-clicking on the trust name that I want to go to. So let's say I wanted to go to the LeBron James Trust. All that I need to do is double-click on LeBron James Trust dated 12/1/99, and it takes me directly to that trust page. So you can see trust name, LeBron James Trust dated 12/1/99. Very nice way to quickly maneuver yourself to a trust page from one of those tables. I would say that there are easier ways to find that information though, and especially for our clients that work in large organizations that maybe have 200, 300, 400 trust accounts on the InsuranceIQ system, you need to find a way to get there very, very quickly. And with that, we have created this global search bar, which will allow you to search for anything within the system that you have access to. Mostly you're going to be searching for names, trust account numbers, policy numbers, but it will also pull in tax IDs, InsuranceIQ numbers, if you know the IIQ number, and really any other digits within the system that we have stored. So I'm going to use the global search and type in James and hit enter. That's going to take me to a search results page. And you can see that I have, what, about 10 items here that correspond to James. If I wanted to sort these by object, so I can see only contacts pulling in or only trusts, then I can do that just by using my filter options on that table. I am actually looking for the LeBron James Trust. Here it is right here. So I'm going to double click on it to take me back to the trust details page. The trust page, we're actually going to stay on this page for a little while now. Trust page is going to provide you with the most detailed information about each trust. So there'll be a specific page for each and every trust account within your block of accounts. And there is some navigation or some tools on this page that you need to be aware of. First off, our handy dandy edit button up in the upper left-hand corner. I mentioned that we'd have that on our trust and policy pages. Here it is on the trust page. If I click that, it's opened up the information that I'm able to edit. If I jump to different tabs, I'm still technically in edit mode. So I could still edit information even if I only meant to edit information on this one tab. This is why you need to be cognizant of your edit button and cancel or save any edits before you start jumping tabs, unless you plan to edit on multiple tabs. The next item to note is the trust notes. Trust notes are set up to pull in automatically on each corresponding trust account. So this is for administrative items that you want someone to be aware of each and every time that they go to this trust. This trust notes is set to pop up right away and should be the first thing that catches your eye. Some of the things that you'll see in trust notes will be administrative, and I say administrative meaning ongoing administrative items, such as grantor has multiple addresses. So maybe they're a snowbird that lives somewhere during the winter and somewhere else during the summer. Or attorney needs to be CC'd on all correspondence. These are just items that you want someone to be aware of every time that they go to this trust. So they're quick, they're easy to see, and they're very accessible to all. Now, if we wanted to add or edit these trust notes, what we need to do is go to the bottom of the page. Down at the bottom of the page, you'll see that we have 3 gold tabs: Trust Notes, Trust Logs, and Follow-ups. I'm going to click on Trust Notes, which pops this tab up. If I wanted to lock it into place, I can either click on this Trust Notes tab, or there's a little thumbtack icon in the upper right-hand corner. If you click that, it will also lock it into place. It can now be edited for size if you need more space. Okay, enough about our gold tabs. They all work the exact same way. Down in this Trust Notes section, you'll see a list of all notes that have been created. These notes will show who created them, the date and time that they were created, and then the last time that they were edited. Any of these notes can be edited by any user of the system. So they are really free-form notes, and anyone could get in and change or add to those notes. If I wanted to add a note, I'd need to look at these buttons here in the middle of the Trust Notes pop-up, and there is an Add Note button. If I click that, it creates a pop-up for me and a free-form notes section here in the middle of the page. Here's where I could put in New Note 2016. I have a 500-character limit, so I can add quite a bit of information. Once I have added this note and I have everything in there correctly, I can go to the bottom of the page and hit Submit, and it will add my note up at the top of the page under Trust Notes. Now, if I wanted to edit that note, what I need to do is go down and find that note, and you'll see this list order column. This corresponds to the numbers right here. So my list order number 1 is the note that I just added, number 1. So I'm going to click on that, which opens up my note right here. And then I'm going to click the Edit Note button. Here's where I could now go in and add or edit information. So I'm going to put added, and I could do that. Or let's say that this note is no longer applicable and I do not want it to pull in. What I can do is click this Archive checkbox here, hit Submit, and it'll now remove that note. So we only have the note that was created on May 15th of last year. If I wanted to see my archived notes, I need to go over to this Archive checkbox, and it'll open up all notes that have been created on this account. So now I could look at archived notes and maybe reopen them if I wanted to. Here's my note right here that I just added and archived. Next item that we're going to take a look at is the Trust Logs. So I'm going to unpin my Trust Notes and click on Trust Logs. Trust Logs operate almost the exact same way as Trust Notes, except for 2 major differences. First off, Trust Logs do not pop up for all to see when you enter a trust page. They are stored down in this Trust Logs pop-up, and you have to click on one if you want to read what it says. The other thing that keeps Trust Logs and Trust Notes differentiated is the fact that Trust Logs, once added, cannot be deleted or edited by other users, and they really cannot be edited by the same user. Once a log is added to the system, it's there, time and date stamped for all time. We use Trust Logs more for action items. So maybe you had contact with a grantor and they wanted to add a beneficiary, or a beneficiary updates their address. These are items that you want time and date stamped, and you don't want someone to have the ability to change, so that you can log these to the account. There is an Edit Log button here, but all that you can do with an Edit Log button is add additional information. And it can only be on a log that you originally created. So here's a log that I originally created. And if I hit the Edit Log button, all that it lets me do is add an additional note to that log. I am not able to actually edit that log. The final gold tab that we're going to go to is the Follow-ups tab. I'm going to pin this into place. Follow-ups are ways to set yourself reminders or Outlook meetings, if you will, Outlook reminders within the InsuranceIQ system. So this allows you to add a note with a due date on it to a certain trust, policy, or account page within the system. If I wanted to add a follow-up, you can see our buttons here in the middle of the page. I'd click the Add Follow-up button, which brings up this pop-up. First item is a due date. So when do you need this task completed? I'm going to set it for tomorrow, May 18th, 2016. I then have to use the subject drop-down, and there are a number of items that you could select. I'm going to do Action Needed Carrier. The next most important tab is the Assign To. So the Assign To tab drop-down is going to default to you as the user. So it's defaulted to me. So I'm setting myself a reminder to do something on this trust. However, I could also set that for any other user of the InsuranceIQ system. So that means that you could technically set a follow-up for a colleague. Let's say you have an assistant or another officer that you work with closely that you'd like to have contact a grantor. You could set them a follow-up with a priority, high, medium, or low, and make the note that you want that person to contact the grantor. This follow-up is actually going to be assigned to me, so I'll show you what that looks like. I'm going to say contact carrier and check on premium. This is where you'll make your note. So if you were assigning something to your colleague, then you could type in exactly what you want them to do. When you hit submit, multiple things are going to happen. First off, it's going to set this follow-up on the page. So technically, anyone could see this follow-up on this trust page if they went down and looked for it. Now, the only people that would be able to change this follow-up are whoever created the follow-up and whoever was assigned the follow-up. In this case, both me. The next thing that's going to happen is whomever was assigned the follow-up is going to receive a notification that they were assigned a follow-up. So I look up here to my mailbox, and I now have one unread. If I click on that, you can see my notification that was just created today. If I click on that to highlight it, my notes say, contact carrier and check on premium. So if you assigned your colleague this follow-up, they would be able to see this note and see exactly what you wanted them to do. What will also happen is we have a follow-ups page. So if I go to the dashboard tab here and then up to follow-ups, it takes me to a page that'll list out all of the follow-ups that are assigned to me or that I have created for someone else. They are going to automatically be aligned by the earliest due date. So I only have one follow-up for tomorrow, but I can see that exact follow-up. So if you had 20 follow-ups, you could come into this page and see all 20 of those follow-ups and the due date. So this is a nice way to organize your workload if you're in InsuranceIQ often. The other nice thing about these follow-ups is when they have been assigned, they come with a location. So wherever that follow-up was created. In this case, you can see 0414-2004 LeBron James Trust. Rather than having to go to the search and put in that information, I can just double-click on this follow-up, and it takes me directly to that page. So I'm now at the LeBron James Trust page. Let's say that I just completed my task. I called the carrier. So I want to go down to my follow-ups, and I now want to complete this task. What I do is find that follow-up, and there is a resolve button. If I click that, it's going to force a log here, so I need to type in a note regarding that follow-up. So called carrier premium paid. When I hit resolve, it's going to remove that follow-up. If I wanted to see the resolved follow-ups, I just click this button and it shows me all resolved follow-ups. So those will always be stored on the account for future viewing. What it will also do, and this is nice if you're assigning to colleagues, it will send a notification to whomever resolved the follow-up and the person that created the follow-up. So in this case, it's both me, so I receive both notifications. But if I assigned it to someone else within my organization and they resolved a follow-up, I'd receive a notification so I know that that was completed. And then it'll also be removed from my follow-ups tab. So the follow-ups are just a great way to organize your workload within the system. Moving on to our last gold tab, on the right-hand side of the page we have this Documents tab. If I lock that into place, this is our Trust Documents foldering tree. So you can see that we have a number of folders here where you can store documents. If you see a document folder with a little blue arrow next to it, like this crummy letters folder, you can click on that, and that means that there are documents stored within. In this case, you can see that we have a number of documents saved as PDFs and Word documents. If I wanted to open those documents, I can just double-click and it will open that document. If I want to add a document to a folder, so let's say I want to add a document to the admin fee folder, what I need to do is click on that folder, so it should highlight in blue, and then I can do basically the same options as our file drop. I can drag and drop a document over the top of this page. There's my test doc. Or I can right-click on that folder, go to Add Document, and do my browse like I did before. A nice way here to save all of your documents electronically within InsuranceIQ so anyone can access that information. I'm going to close out our Documents tree and then move to the last navigational item before I go through each of the tabs. Up at the top of the page is the Trust Management drop-down. We have this at the policy page as well, so we have a Policy Management drop-down, and this is for any items that we think are critical and that we want to be made aware of when you take an action. Specifically, we're talking about the change trust status or change policy status and change trust name. So if I wanted to change the trust status, what does that mean? Well, I'm going to click that and it will bring up a pop-up for me. And up at the top it says status. The trust status, which actually if you look over here, trust status pending removal, is a way for you to keep track of any accounts that may be moving or going through some sort of change. Trust status most of the time is going to be set to active or in force, you'll see. But you also have the ability to offer one of these pending changes. So let's say you have an account that's been a real pain in the butt and you want to resign. You haven't completed the resignation, but you can set it as pending resignation. And then you could go to your active trust page, sort by those pending resignation, and be able to follow up on those items. So you can easily pull in any accounts that you may be closing. What you also need to do, and this is more for billing purposes for our standard clients, if you do close an account, you should switch it to one of these closed functions, which will move the trust or policy into an inactive status so that you're not billed for it anymore. Let's say that I want to change this particular trust to pending resignation. I'm going to make that selection. It will then require me to fill in this notes section, which will actually become a trust log. So client called and is removing us as trustee. I hit submit. I get a pop-up to check policy statuses, and it updates the trust status. So now I could search by my pending resignation or sort by that and pull in any of these trusts. The other drop-down that I wanted to hit on is the change trust name. So the trust name is going to be set by you at trust submission. If you were to find out that the trust name was incorrect, you want to go in and update this in InsuranceIQ so that your information is correct. But also, this is an item that we use when we confirm owner and beneficiary names with the insurance carriers. So this needs to be correct. So if you had the LeBron James Trust dated 12/1/99 and you found out that it should actually be the date of 1998, we'd want you to update that up here and then make a note about what you changed. So updated year to 1998. Hit submit. It will make that change here and make a trust log. Okay, now I'm going to move through these tabs for the trust level. We are on the information tab, or often called the trust details screen. This will provide some basic information about the trust account number, status, name. You can set administrators or relationship managers. And there's just a bunch of information on this page that you can fill in or choose to leave blank. It's kind of up to you. Next tab is the Grantors tab. This will list any grantors of the trust account. You can see we have LeBron James and Amy Adams here. Let's say that I wanted to edit LeBron James's information. So that's incorrect to me. What I need to do is actually double-click on his name, which opens up an Edit Contacts pop-up. This is where we store all information for each of our contacts. And you'll see that there is quite a bit of information for you to edit. Something that you need to note, and I'm going to use the addresses section down here in the lower left-hand corner to point out, is that we have multiple addresses, emails, phone numbers that you're able to add. So there is a little drop down here. Right now it says billing, but if I click on that, there are actually 4 addresses that I can add, and you can really disregard the names. We just put them in there really as placeholders. So don't worry about those. It doesn't have to be a billing address specifically. They're just different addresses that you can add in. So if I click the street item, you can see that a different address shows up. So maybe LeBron James is a snowbird who lives in Cleveland during the winter and in Miami during the summer. So right now it is summertime and he is in Miami. What I also need to do is make sure that I have one of these addresses set as primary, because I currently have 2 addresses, and if you're using the administration console and using template letters, it's not going to know which address to pull. So over here, just to the right of where we enter the address, is a primary checkbox. You need to check that for at least one of the addresses or emails or phone numbers to make it primary. That's what we'll pull into letters. Okay, you can see the other drop downs here for email, phone number, so on and so forth. Once I'm done editing all of this information, I'm going to hit submit, and it will save that information. Moving on to the next tabs we have here, we have a beneficiaries tab, which is basically the exact same information, only for the beneficiaries of the trust. Our contacts tab will show all contacts on the trust. This is where you could add attorneys or financial advisors or other non-essential contacts, I'll say. If you need to add a contact really to any of these pages, up at the top of the page there is an Add, Edit, Remove button, so you can make those changes. Next tab is the Accounting tab. This is our internal accounting. If you're using the Administration Console, this will track transactions and other activities. It's not going to necessarily lock in completely with your system. You would have to edit all of this manually unless you're using the console. I don't want to spend a ton of time here, but I do want to show you over on the side tabs, we do have a way to track administration fees. So there is this admin fee tab. And I have the ability to add invoices. So let's say I want to track my administrative fees through the console, and I need to add an invoice because I have a fee coming due. Up at the top of the page, there is an invoices section, and if I click add, it will bring up this pop-up where I can add in client invoice number 1001, due date of 5/18/16. I could add a fee period if I wanted. Most important, I could add my fee amount. So he owes $1,500. And then a next admin fee due date, 5/18/2017. I hit submit, and it will create an invoice for me that I could then pull into letters and bill out to the client. We're going to move on. If you have further questions about your accounting or you'd like to get into more in-depth details, maybe you want to actually generate statements, talk to your client service representative. We'll walk you through some of the other functionality. The last tab that I'm going to show here is the Settings tab. This is another way that you can manipulate information for how this trust would flow through the Administration Console. If you're not using the Administration Console, this really won't matter to you. But I am going to hit on the side tabs quick, and specifically the gift letter settings. Here is where you can set how information pulls into letters. So which grantor address to use. I could set up merge fields and actual templates that I'm going to have pull in for each and every policy that we're sending a gift notice for. If I needed to edit this information, I can click my edit button. That opens it up. We'll go through more of this on our Administration Console webinar, so please check that out if you are interested in creating letters through the system. I'm going to cancel my edit, and then we're going to move to the last tab at the trust level, which is actually the Policies tab. Policies tab is going to default to show all active policies within this trust. Currently there are 2 that are listed, a Northwestern Mutual term policy and a Prudential, I can't see the policy type because we are currently updating a review. So I'm not sure what type of policy this is. This is definitely an annual renewable term. Let's say that you knew that there was a policy that was closed in this trust and you wanted to access that information. Up here we have a Show Inactive checkbox. If you click that, it will now pull in any closed policies. So we now have a policy that status is lapsed confirmed that has pulled in. It did not pull in originally because it's not active. Another thing to note here, if I scroll down to my last policy, so this is the Prudential policy that I want to move to next. There is quite a bit of information here. You can see last premium paid date, last out-of-pocket amount, premium due date, cycles, modes, and an admin console tracker here. This information is something that you will find useful if you're just looking for policy information at a glance, but there are places where you'll find much more in-depth information about this policy. This is not all that you'll have access to. So let's say that I would like to actually go to this policy and look at all of the information available to me. What I need to do is click on the InsuranceIQ number, which is this 316-30, and it should highlight in blue. That's how you know you're selected in. Then I can double click, and it will take me to the new page. Okay, so now you can see we are on a totally different page, and this is the policy details section. Originally, I went to an internal page there, so you're going to default to this information tab, policy details. And you can see our tab right here. I'm going to touch on our gold tabs. So down at the bottom of the page, you'll see the gold tabs that we saw before, trust notes, trust logs. You now also have policy notes and policy logs. So these are specific just to this policy. And then a follow-ups that would correspond to just this policy again. We also have our Documents tab over on the right-hand side. This time, this corresponds to only policy documents. So now you have annual statements, illustrations, original documents, so policies and so on and so forth. And an IIQ review log. This is where you could find notes about the current review status on this policy. So if you were interested on why a review was not completed yet, you could come in here and find out. All right, getting to the tabs here. You can see the information tab with our policy details, which is more in-depth basic information about the policy. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of the page to the most important part of this page, which is our policy management action section. Whenever we complete a review, we're going to try to catch items that maybe don't make sense. So any discrepancies, potentially you have listed the owner of the policy as the LeBron James Trust, but we go to the insurance carrier and they're saying that it's the LeBron James Trust number 2. If we find that information, we're going to mark it as a variance. And you'll find those variances listed down under this policy management actions. If I click on variances, I can see right now there are 5 of 5 resolved. So all of our variances have been resolved, but it will pull up all of the different variances. If I wanted to resolve a variance, what I would need to do, and I'm actually going to click down here so I can get one of these. Oh, that's an old one. So we'll pop back to this page. So you can see right now that all of our variances have been resolved. So we don't actually have anything that we could resolve. If there was a variance for us to resolve, it would have an orange exclamation point right here. All that we need to do is click that orange exclamation point, and it would take us to a page where we need to select which item was correct. So looking at our is policy currently assigned, client provided, not provided, so the information was not included when the trust was submitted or policy was submitted. Carrier provided no. So I would want to select no and hit resolve. That will then make a little log right here. So I hit the plus sign to find that information, and it says, is policy currently assigned? Carrier provided was correct. Policy is not assigned. So it's going to force me to make a log and resolve that variance and state what my resolution is. I'm going to close out of this and move on to our other tabs. The Carrier Information tab or Carrier Info tab. This will provide information that you would need to be able to contact the carrier. So you can see phone numbers, fax numbers. We'll provide insured information, owner information, and then a place for notes if you needed to add notes about where you need to call. Maybe you need to speak to a certain customer service representative. You can add those notes. The Relationships tab, this will include owner, beneficiary, insured, agents. You probably won't look at this very often. Details tab, this will include dividend information, potentially no lapse guarantee information if you have a universal life, maturity values. This is going to just be more detailed information that we've received from the review process. So you can review all of that information and get all of those details. The Values tab, so any values that we have received, we will update on this page. The nice thing with this page is you'll be able to see the values as of date. so the date that the values were actually generated by the carrier, and then the date that they were last updated. So you can see the date they were updated and by whom here at ITM 21st. This page will also allow you to pull this information into different reports, and I'll show that later on our webinar. Next, and probably the most important tab at the policy level, is the Premiums tab. Premiums tab is going to pull in a couple different types of information. So current premium information up at the top of the screen. So you can see premium mode, scheduled, current, and out-of-pocket premium amounts. So a scheduled premium amount would be the amount that the policy is actually billing, or that the carrier is actually billing. And then your current or out-of-pocket amounts are going to be the amounts that the client is actually paying towards that policy. So this is where we want these items to be correct. Currently, we're showing an out-of-pocket amount of $8,000. So that's what the client is actually paying towards this policy. They're not paying $10,000, even though the carrier is billing that. They're paying $8,000. So that's what we want our out-of-pocket amount to show. This is the amount that we'll pull in when we order illustrations and attempt to review the policy. What you'll also see here is, on a policy like this, a remainder paid by column, and then next premium due date up here at the top, last cash premium paid date and amount, and down at the bottom of the page, a premium history. So this premium history will automatically update with any premiums that are run through the administration console in InsuranceIQ. Otherwise, you'll have to add this information. If you wanted to change premium information, what you'll need to do is go up to our policy management dropdown. We mentioned that this is where important changes are made. So I'm going to click policy management dropdown and go down to change premium info. When I click that, it's going to bring up a page with the information that I can edit. So let's say that the client was paying $8,000 out of pocket, and dividends were reducing that remainder. They've now decided that they're going to pay the full amount out of pocket. So rather than editing it here, what I'm going to do is click this full premium paid out of pocket button, which defaults this to whatever the current or scheduled amount lists, which is $10,000. When I make that change, I'll need to hit submit, and it'll force me to make a log regarding why I made that change. So I'd say client has decided to pay full premium out of pocket. Hit submit. The change is going to be made on this page. So I can now see full premium paid out of pocket, yes, out of pocket amount $10,000. Well, let's say I also wanted to record a premium. That's also going to be done at the policy management dropdown, record a premium. Here what I'll need to do is enter a premium paid date. So maybe I notice that the 2012 premium is not listed, and I want that included. 11/25/2012. I put the out-of-pocket amount. If I wanted to, or if any principal or interest were paid, I could add that, and then a next premium due date. You want to make sure that this is correct. It could jump on you. Once I hit submit, down here in my premium history, you can see the premium that I just recorded. So we can keep a nice running track of that premium history. Last couple tabs that we have, first off, the illustrations tab. You probably won't come to this much, but when we're doing the review process, we'll enter an illustration here so that you can see the actual chart. This is a test account, so that's why we have some information missing. Last tab is your reports tab. This is where you're going to find all completed reports on the policy. Up at the top of the reports tab is a live reporting section. This will allow you to run reports with live data. So if values have been updated, if a client has had a recent birthday, then you could run a live grantor report, comparative data sheet, whatever you want. So these items allow you to run live reports. Down below that, we have what are called static reports. So these are the reports that we actually completed, or that our production team completed, on the date that the review was completed. So you'll see that these are date stamped. They'll be sorted by the most recent report down to the oldest report. And in this table, you can see policy grades, variances, action items, maintenance items. And then over here, the actual different reports that you could generate. So the full, quick, or grantor reports. Full report is going to be the most in-depth information. Quick and grantor reports just tone that down in different versions. If you wanted to open one of those reports, you just need to click on the Adobe icon, which will pop up that PDF so that you can review that report. The last tab is the History tab. This is not working currently, so you can just disregard that tab. That's all that I want to talk about at the policy level. I now want to do a quick run through on the reporting capabilities within the system. So going into the reports, what I want to do is go down to the lower left-hand corner and click on Reports. And then up at the top of the page, you will see that we have a live reporting field. So I'm going to click this live reporting page, which will take me to a list of canned reports within the system. So you could see an admin fee due report, annual policy reviews, and a number of other reports. If you wanted to review one of these canned live reports, you can just click the View Report button next to that corresponding report, and it will generate for that report for you to view. What I think is a more important or more functional reporting option is dynamic reporting. So if I look over here to the left-hand side, there is a dynamic reporting page. If I click on that, it will bring me to this page right here. Dynamic reporting is a way that you can create custom reports based on any field within the InsuranceIQ system that we capture. The first 6 drop-downs here, you probably will not pay much attention to, and it's probably going to default most of the options for you anyways. The other one that you might look at really is inactive or active, or the account if you're in an organization that has multiple accounts. I'm going to jump down to this type drop-down. If I click that, you can see the different types of reports that I could run. So beneficiaries, contacts, grantors, insureds, policies, and trusts. I'm going to run a policies report. And then I move over to the columns drop-down. This is where I can select all of the fields that I want to include in a report. Just so you know, there are a number of fields here, as you can see as I scroll through. They are in alphabetical order, which makes things a little bit easier for you to find. I'm going to go down to the net cash surrender value. Then I want policy number, trust account number, and trust name. And I went too far there. Trust account number and trust name. Once I've selected all of the fields that I would like included in my custom report, I click the Preview button, which generates a report down below. It's going to default to pull in this account number, account, TA, and CA fields, but the other fields that I included are right here. This is nice. You can at least see the information, but really not a very useful report here. You can't manipulate it. You can't show this to anyone else, or you couldn't pull this out of the system. So this is very useless. If you wanted a more useful report, what you can do is go up here to the floppy disk icon, hit the drop down, and this is our export button for this page. If I scroll down to Excel 97 to 2003, this allows me to save the document as an Excel file outside of the system. So I can export this report, this custom report that I just created, and manipulate that data, then be able to provide that to someone outside. This is a great way to run yourself custom reports. Reports that many clients will use is to run the net cash surrender value and then use this to update their trust accounting systems. So you can put in the policy number, trust account number, net cash surrender value, update your market values on your trust accounting system. I suggest that everyone play around with this when you're looking for reports or information. If you have questions, contact your client service representative. They'll be able to try and get you in touch with the right fields so that you're running the reports that are most useful to you. That is going to be the end of our webinar today regarding the general InsuranceIQ basics. We do intend to have a webinar on the admin console basics, so where we will actually go through generating letters and moving policies throughout the admin console. If you have additional questions, again, I'll say contact your client service representative and they'll walk you through any of those questions that you may have. I want to thank everyone for attending today. I look forward to seeing your progress in InsuranceIQ, and feel free to contact me with any questions you may have. Thank you.